Welcome to Awakening Within. I'm your host, Jill McPherson. On today's show, we are back talking about one of my passions, effective communication, which means I have Eric Nagler back on the show. Welcome, Eric.
Hey.
I remember when Oprah used to have Dr. Phil come on the show each week to help us learn how to get along better. So I sort of feel like Oprah. We may have to start calling you Dr. Eric. I really enjoyed the feedback I've received from viewers on my previous shows with Eric. If you have not seen them, then be sure to go onto my YouTube channel to watch them. The shows are about very simple and effective communication skills that create greater connections in our relationships. Even though these skills seem simple, they are not easy to use, especially since many of us have never learned effective communication skills or have developed some destructive habits like needing to be right. So Eric is back with me to do some demonstrations on how we can start arguing less and start connecting more deeply with our loved ones. So let's jump right into this. When we argue, Eric, what's really happening? What's going on?
Okay, I have to say stop and notice that I've got Dr. Phil's hairdo.
Yeah. So we're really close now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's, you know, what is going on is that we are always focusing on the issue and we rarely focus on the person.
Okay.
So whenever there's a communication of any kind, there's the issue and there's the person. No matter what we say, you know, if I say, I love you, well, the issue is whether or not I love you. The person is, well, I'm someone who's feeling love, whatever else I might be feeling. And we're always needing to solve problems, and we're always needing to go to the issue, especially men, I gotta say, at least that's the stereotype. I'm a problem solver. People come to me for problems. And to learn to let go of going directly to solving problems and taking a look at who the person is, can do a lot in terms of how an argument is going to develop or how it can be avoided.
Right.
Yeah. The issue, well, what we are talking about, the person, who's the one who's talking and what's happening with that person. It's that simple, and yet it's, as you said, we get into the habits of just dealing with issue, dealing with issue, dealing with issue.
Right, so it's not about the toothpaste lid, it's not about the toilet seat up, and it's not about the shoes on the floor. It's about listening to the person express their experience of those things.
Yeah, they're both important, you know,
Right.
but the thing is that they are in fact both important. So let's pay attention to the person first, you know. The person's got the toilet seat up syndrome. That person's annoyed. That person feels like they're not being paid attention to. They're kind of seeing themselves as second rate to the person who's always leaving the toilet seat up. So if I'm leaving the toilet seat up, then I want to go, I get that you're feeling, how are you feeling and what's going on for you that way? And you know, it might eventually not be only about the toilet seat. There may be all kinds of other angers that are coming up because we haven't been paying attention to the anger, you know.
Right, right.
And I think that anger primarily is just the frustrated desire to be heard. So when you're listening to somebody, then it really can deflate or just relax around arguments.
Okay, so let's get that. Anger is about the frustration of not being heard.
Yeah, I think so.
Which would kind of make sense, because when we're angry, we raise our voice, right? So it's like, you didn't hear me, so let me bump up the volume so you can really hear me.
Right. And then when you're bumping up the volume, I'm feeling defensive, and I'm not paying attention to your anger. I'm paying attention to, well, a toilet seat, blah, 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 blah. How come you, blah, 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 blah. It would go into some kind of defense about the toilet seat.
Right, and not listen and connect with the person.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get right to this, because I'm all practical.
Okay.
So we've written up a demo.
Yeah.
And so we're going to do that.
Yes.
And so we're going to pretend we're like a married couple that might...
I'm really looking forward to having an argument with you.
Yeah, because I don't think we've ever had an argument, Eric, so maybe we have.
No, maybe not.
I don't know. Well, we'll try one anyways.
Okay.
So,
Right.
so you helped me out by writing up this demo.
Yeah. So this is a typical, what I want the audience to do is to focus on the issue. What we're doing in this first argument is we're all focused on the issue, okay? All right.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
Do you have any idea what time it is?
Oh, don't start with me.
You prance in here at 12 o'clock. You don't want me to start with you?
You're not my keeper. You don't keep my schedule.
Midnight? Where have you been?
Well, what about you? You never call. I never know where you are.
Look, you're talking about afternoons. Afternoons are not midnight.
Well, that could be a very typical conversation in a home. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could. Yeah,
Right.
in fact, I remember a time that my partner came home late, and that's
This
kind of
was
how
how
the
it went.
conversation went. Yeah.
Okay.
So notice that, first of all, we're not focused on one person. We're back and forth, and we're defending each other, and we're talking about the time, whether or not the time is the important thing. That's the issue.
Right.
Right?
Right. And so I hear you attacking me, so then I get defensive, and you're not my keeper, and then attack back about like, well, there's
what
times
about
I
you
don't
and
know where
Tom?
you are.
Right.
Right. And so that's the issue, just bouncing back and forth, and people not connecting.
Right.
Or in fact, creating greater distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that tends to happen is that when somebody is arguing with you or somebody who's angry at you, you can't, since you're focused on the issue, you can't just let them be angry. You have to do something about the issue. That you have to either tell the person that it's not your fault, or take on fault and go into all those kinds of defenses around it. Whereas, suppose when you came in and I was angry, suppose you were just caring about how I felt.
And just allowed you to be angry.
Yeah. And in fact acknowledged
Acknowledging it.
that I was angry. So I think that's what the next one is.
Okay, so now we're going to do this again.
Yeah.
And see if we can do it where we connect to each other rather than to the issue.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. And it's mostly, since I'm the one who's upset, that I'm the one that's going to keep the focus. You're not going to be robbing me of the focus. You're going to be paying attention to me because I'm upset.
Right.
Right? And so that's another difference between the first argument and the second argument to look for.
Okay, noticing the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so notice the difference. Pay attention here.
Okay.
Here we go.
Right. Do you have any idea what time it is?
You're upset.
Of course I'm upset. It's not fair for you to be out without my knowing.
You're angry at me.
Well, yes, I didn't know where you were. Something could have happened to you.
I can see how you would be worried about me.
Yeah, I care about you, damn it.
I'm sorry. I don't want to upset you.
Yeah. So in this one, my anger was, I discovered that my anger was about my caring about you. Where I can get to that because you're paying attention to my feelings instead of defending yourself, and I don't have to defend myself against your defense and let it
Go on and on.
Yeah, go into some kind of whirlwind.
Right.
Yeah.
So when somebody brings an upset to you or an emotion like anger, it's about really listening to that or acknowledging that, I think is the words you used, and not defending, not blaming, not,
Yeah.
So the tennis match doesn't go back and forth.
Right.
It just stays with you.
We're so used to taking anger as an attack. And actually we're kind of used to attacking people with anger, and we're used to seeing it as an attack. What happens if we kind of break that cycle or break that chain so that I got angry at you and you didn't take it as an attack? You just acknowledged that I was angry. You said, I see you're upset, right? That gave me an opportunity to explore a little bit more what my anger was about. Okay.
So there you have a demonstration of how we can argue about the issue, or instead how we can connect to each other. And we'll be back with more demonstrations right after this. Welcome back. Eric Nagler is back in the studio today helping us argue less and love more. I am so glad you tuned in. We are doing demonstrations of effective communication skills, and if you missed the first demo, don't worry, we're going to do another one. So before we do it, Eric, what do you want to speak to about it?
Right. All communications are not only about arguments. It's about what happens when two people are communicating and wanting to get deeper with each other.
Okay.
And so the first one, once again, focuses on the issue, and we get to a certain place with the issue, and then the second one focuses on the person. So I don't remember which one, who did you want me to be?
Oh, right. You can just start in on A again.
Okay, I'll be A.
Okay, the first person.
You ready?
Yes.
My boss was driving me crazy today.
Why? What happened?
Well, she kept texting me to make sure I was doing these things that I already know how to do. I already know that I'm supposed to do these things.
Oh, what an annoying boss. You should just text her back to tell her to stop treating you like a baby.
I know. I'm just so frustrated. She doesn't trust me, and I'm not sure.
You need to stand up for yourself. Get a backbone. Don't let her walk all over you like that.
I don't know. Maybe I'll just...
Yeah, well, I had a boss like that once. She drove me crazy too. I'm telling you, I was so angry. Who did she think she was, treating me like a 5-year-old? She clearly did not know me well enough to know that I could do the job. She was so busy on her high horse, wanting to boss everyone around. She didn't do anything herself, just boss people around. But I didn't like her walking all over me like that. I stood up for myself.
Yeah, well, so anyway, about my day...
Oh yeah. So what are you going to do about it? Well, you know what you should do?
You know, forget it. I'm just going to go to bed. I'm tired.
Oh. Good one, huh?
That's good. I feel like, what was that? There was a couple, Dawn and somebody, who used to have arguments on air. You're too young for that. Never
Okay.
mind. So here's the point is, first of all, also, I came in with an upset.
Right.
And instead of just hanging with my upset, you took over part of the conversation, and I tried to go back and forth, but really you just kind of took over.
Yeah, I just kind of took over because I knew what you were going through, so then let me tell you about my issue.
Yeah, you're going to solve my problem, and it was all about the boss, okay? And like, how often does that happen? That happens all the time in arguments, you know? And from my perspective, the person who's going to do the solution should be the person who has the problem. In my counseling, people are always coming to me with problems, and all I'm doing really is mirroring the problem for them, because if they come to the solution themselves, they're much more empowered, you know. Yeah. So I think that's what's happening here in the second one. Yeah.
Right. So that wasn't, me listening to you at all. That was me just.
Yeah, you were doing great. I was impressed with how you took over the conversation.
Right, and so you didn't feel hurt at all?
No.
No.
No, I didn't feel hurt at all.
Right.
And it was kind of like what I saw. If I was going to be the person paying attention to you, what I saw was a person who really needs the limelight, a person who needs to get rid of some of her own anger. I mean, that's where I might have gone, had that happened in real life for me.
Right, and maybe that's what it does happen. Like when the person who is listening starts going, doing more of the talking, it's because maybe your issue triggered an issue in me, and now all of a sudden my issue's to the surface, and I've completely ignored yours. Yeah.
So one of the really big philosophies is to really let that person have their own stuff. You got triggered, but if you're going, okay, this is all about Eric.
Right.
Let this just be about Eric. It isn't about me. Even when I'm arguing with you, even when I'm yelling at you and saying, why did you come home so late? If you can see that this is about me, then you can focus on me, because I'm the one that has the issue right now. I'm the one that's upset. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and just be like an observer, really.
Yeah.
A listener and an observer.
Yeah.
A witness to your upset, and that's it.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's try this again.
Okay.
And see if we can now role model more effective communication.
All right.
Okay.
I hope this was written properly. Okay. Okay, ready?
Okay.
My boss is driving me crazy today. She kept texting me to make sure I was doing these things that I already know that I'm supposed to do.
That sounds frustrating.
Yeah, it was frustrating. I was wondering why she thought I wasn't capable of remembering what to do. I mean, have I been forgetting to do those things in the past? She hasn't told me.
So you're wondering about yourself.
Yeah. Well, why else would she keep texting me like that?
You think she has some kind of story? Is it like you're feeling off balance or something, or off balance from her texting?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, why is she doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, well. Who the heck knows? Anyway, it was a hard day.
Yeah, I hear you. And one where you felt mistrusted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else you need?
No. Thanks for listening.
Right.
one of the neat things about this is that I kept going into questions, and you let go of having to answer them. Do you notice how whenever anybody asks you a question, it's like you feel this kind of obligation to answer it? One of the things I'm training myself to do is to notice the question and let the person have the question, let the person be in the question. Because very often, if you answered the question, then you wouldn't be paying attention to me anymore. You'd be the one
Trying to solve the problem or come up with the answer.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're in that state of question, it's far better to hold the space for you so the answer comes up for you.
Yeah, you did that really well. I asked the question 3 times and you didn't bite. And at the end of this conversation, my question wasn't answered. And actually it wasn't that important.
And that's okay.
Why is the boss acting this way? What's more important is just how I was feeling.
Great. And feelings is what we're talking about. We'll come back talking about more communication and more feelings after the break. Welcome back. I have with me today Eric Nagler, and we have been doing some demonstrations on communication involving the issue and the person. So Eric, what would your tip be to viewers if they want to become better listeners?
Well, that's it, better listeners. The first tip is, can I and do I want to listen to this person? And do I want to stay focused on listening?
Okay.
Rather than needing to speak, rather than needing to solve the problem.
Right.
And what I ask people to do, what I ask my clients to do is whenever you're in a conversation, stop and notice what is the issue and what is the person, And am I, because they're both important, but am I focusing as well on the person, That's the biggest tip. That's why I use that phrase, the issue and the person.
So to tune into that, so when you're listening to a person, you can even be getting curious over what is their issue.
Yeah, and who are they? What's going on for them? What are they feeling? What's their thing? And the other part of it is that in an argument or in a communication, the person who has the most investment, the person who has the issue, the person who is most upset, that's the person who should be talking.
Okay.
So if you're upset, and I shouldn't be going, they're there, don't worry, you don't have to be upset, and just listening to the person who's upset. Letting the person come to a place of resolution, letting the person come to a place of calm and quiet, just by listening and paying attention and being a mirror.
Right.
Yeah.
So mirroring, when you say a mirror, so echoing or mirroring back what you hear them saying.
Yeah.
So like, I'm really angry with my boss, and then you saying, oh, so you're upset with your boss. And
Yeah. I see the upsetness in your face. Tell me more.
Tell me more. That's a good one.
Yeah. Rather than, I'm going to talk about the boss, or I'm going to tell you how to be, or I'm going to anything. I'm just going to listen.
Right. And I just can't get over how simple and straightforward this sounds, and yet to do it, like I just think even, last night my daughter brought an upset to me, and right away my mom mode went, I need to rescue her from this, I need to do something about it, I should have prevented it, and then suddenly the issue was becoming mine. I was becoming quite agitated that, if I was a better mom, she wouldn't be in this situation. And so just really recognizing that, I guess just taking a deep breath and noticing I'm getting engaged in the issue rather than listening to the person.
Mm-hmm. So there were so many different parts of what was going on for you when she came into the upset. Part of what goes on for me is I just want to see it as a habit I need to break. So my wife had an issue with me last night, and I just kind of went into an automatic, I'm just going to listen, even though my brain was going, it's not my fault, blah, 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 all that stuff.
Defensive. And
just listen, and walked away kind of with a sense of frustration that I hadn't had an opportunity to defend myself, et cetera, et cetera. But after a few minutes realized, yay, I broke that habit a little bit and was able to just listen, and maybe next time it'll be easier. And I started to think of all, just like you were thinking of all of the triggers and all of the, was I a good husband? Was I a this? Was I a that? All of those questions, you know, to let them go and just congratulate myself on just being able to hear her and to let her have what she had to say and to give her that space.
Right, and that could throw somebody off if you're used to sort of this tennis match of going back and forth. You know, I have to give, you know, credit to my husband. He's getting really good at this, just listening. But because it's a newer thing for us, I find myself kind of like waiting for the, you know, tennis ball to come back to me,
Right. Yeah.
and kind of like, well, aren't you going to say something? Like,
Yeah. I remember the first time my wife went and did our Human Awareness Institute workshops first before me. She came back from the first one and she had changed. And I don't know, it was a day or so later, I got upset about something. And I went, and you did this, and you that, and you that, and you that, and you that. And I stood there getting my armor up, and she took a deep breath, and she said, "Thank you for sharing." And I almost started to cry because it was the first time I can remember actually being heard, being the space to speak, being given the space to speak.
wow,
And what a change in our typical habit, you know.
it really just broke that
Yeah.
repetitive cycle
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Just thank you for sharing.
That's a great response. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
And she really was grateful. You know, that was
Right.
the-
So, and that's where a lot of this started for you then, is, I know we've mentioned it before in previous shows, but the Human Awareness Institute is an organization that teaches this stuff.
We learn these skills, and it's essentially that workshops are essentially about intimacy, love, and sexuality.
Okay.
And in order to be potent sexual human beings, we need to be able to be in touch with our loving. We need to be able to communicate. We need to know what boundaries are. We need to know about consent. We need to be respectful and reverent with each other in order to be able to be effective communicators and effective sexual beings.
Right, so you're saying it's like the foundation is being able to communicate, and then the intimacy builds through that communication. I mean, obviously that wasn't even an intimate moment when your wife said thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And then from that intimacy, we can grow as sexual beings. Is that?
Yeah, we add dimensions of caring and compassion and reverence into our sexuality with each other, and playfulness.
Right, right. Eric, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show and
Welcome.
sharing your thoughts on communication and helping us to communicate and connect more. And when we come back, I will share my thoughts on our communication skills today. We'll be right back. Why is communicating effectively and lovingly with another person so challenging for most of us, and what can we do about it? First of all, I always say, world peace starts here. So I'm going to guess that this is also where we start with improving communication with others. So much of the time when we're talking with another person, we're not listening to them. We're listening to this dialogue in our head on what we think about them, or about the issue they have brought to us. And if it's an issue involving us, we're thinking of ways to prove them wrong, or at least to prove our innocence. If it's a loved one in pain over an issue, we often begin offering them advice or think of ways to rescue them of their problem instead of just listening. Can we learn to hear the other without an agenda? Can we simply listen without any expectation to do anything else but just listen? Now there's something to consider. I'm Jill McPherson. I wish you all well on your journey of awakening within. Thanks for watching.